Hey there, welcome to the Jeff and Heidi Show, where you're going to have the opportunity to listen to and learn from everyday entrepreneurs. Welcome, I'm Jeff Hagee, and I'm with my co-host Heidi Anderson from ECI Secure Pay, and we're excited today to have Jill Valdez with us. Thank you, Jill, for being with us, and we're just excited to hear your story and hear some of your background, and so share with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into things.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm super thrilled to be on the show today. I love how we connected and just kind of stayed in touch over the last couple of years. So thank you. So my background is I was an executive of a nonprofit agency for a couple of different ones. One was a startup, and then the other one was an established organization that I came to be a part of. And I loved it. I thought I was going to be doing that forever. But the organization I was with was going through some financial struggles, and I knew the right thing to do was to resign my position. And at that point, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to make this huge shift. And so I jumped into the for-profit sector. And in doing so, I thought, oh, I'm going to be super far behind. I'm, not going to know, because nonprofits tend to sometimes be a little behind in what for-profits are doing. And I got in there and I came to realize that what I knew and how I worked with people and how I thought about team and how I thought about processes, it was something that wasn't as common knowledge as I expected. And so I was like, I got to keep moving forward with this. And so I finished up my degree in psychology, and I went to school and got my master's and finished that up. And so then I was working for a company. I was a director of HR. I thought, wow, this is so great. I love that I get to be with people and help organizations. And the president of the company came to me and he said, so I'm kicking you out of the nest. Like, uh-oh. And he told me, he said, you need to start your own agency. You need to be doing this for more than just one company at a time as an employee. And so he really encouraged me. He said, I'll be your first client.
That's a huge compliment, right? Big
I
bit
know.
of confidence to starting out with. That's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. And he, aside from my husband, he has been my biggest fan. And it's great because he still is a client and I get to try out a bunch of new stuff with them. And they're so near and dear to my heart. But that's kind of what's gotten me to now. My husband and I, we moved to Portland in March, and 3 days later, everything locked down. So we have no idea what life really is like up here.
Oh, wow.
But we love it. We love what we've experienced so far, and we're excited about the opportunities for what life is right now.
How did you pick Portland? Was there did your husband have a job there, or what took you to Portland?
Yeah, my husband. So he was applying for organizations, and this particular one was looking for a leader like him. And so they asked him to come and be their director.
And then what you do, you can do anywhere. You do a lot of remote work like, this, so it works out fine.
So I did a lot of remote stuff. And so I knew that I could go anywhere. I was super excited to come to Portland because oh my gosh, my ideal client is everywhere. But then business shut down. So I took a kind of a pause, and that wasn't a bad thing per se, because it just helped me kind of get settled and get ready for this next season and for this new time of learning more about what Portland really is like as much as we possibly could, and really defining what I want to be doing for companies. When you start out a new agency, when you start something new, you're like, oh my gosh, I just want to serve everybody, and I have to serve everybody or else my business isn't going to grow. So I can't be niche, and yet all the experts are like, you have to pick a niche, you have to pick somebody special.
Right.
So it really just gave me some time to get settled.
So you talk about being in Portland and your ideal clients everywhere. Who is your ideal client?
Yeah. So I'm not industry specific. I'm very specific about the size of a company. My heart and passion is for those small businesses, those ones with like 50 or less employees. They are doing great things. And having been the director of a small business before, I know how much they want to take advantage of what's out there. It's not like they're, managers and business owners are not sitting there going, oh, I don't want to be a part of that. That's only for big companies. They want to learn, they want to grow, they want to get better, they want to keep developing, but so often they get outpriced. And so my heart is the small business.
So what do you do for them when you come into a company like that, what do you help them with?
I help them with the strategies of how to improve performance and how to improve productivity. I'm really focused on the people aspect of what they're doing, although sometimes we also have to talk about process. Sometimes some of their processes are a little broken and need some adjustments. But really, it's about taking a look at who is their team. And we do a really deep dive audit on who the team members are. And then also I want to find out, where does the business owner or the manager, where are they wanting to go? And then we create the organization chart based on that and based on the ideal roles. So often, I'm sure you guys have experienced this and seen this too, I see business owners, they're constantly readjusting their organization chart based on who they have on staff.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I mean, and I get it, because you do have to be realistic about who's on your team, but how can you ever get to that next level? How can you ever reach those goals if you still really are just kind of regurgitating everything that you've always been doing? So when we put that org chart together based on the ideal roles, then we start looking at who's on the team, who's the staff, who can already fill this role, who can be developed into this role, who do you need to hire for this role, and so that's a large part of it. We teach the team how to communicate to each other. We teach them about personality, and so that they get to know and understand each other better. Again, so often with those small businesses, it has this family feel a lot of times for the staff. And so they feel like that they're all a family, like that they presume that they know each other because of that comfortableness. But there's so much I see. I love to watch the light bulbs go off on the staff. They're like, oh, that's why you do what you do, when they start learning about that. And so that's really the bulk of how we get started.
Super. So, I mean, as a coach myself, I know every business you go into is different, and you see different things, hear different things. Do you see, with who you work with, do you see any commonality on things that you can focus on productivity? Because every business can be more productive if they put the right things in place. Are there some common themes that you see across different businesses?
So the common themes are really a breakdown in communication and accountability. Again, in those small businesses, because everybody feels like a family, they're less prone to hold each other accountable. What I teach them how to hold each other accountable without seeming like they're being mean, and then also just healthy conflict management. A lot of times, so when I teach personality, I teach it based on the DISC, and S's and C's are super predominant. Like I have one client, and out of their staff, they have 13 on their team. Of the 13, 10 of them are S's, and S's will avoid conflict like the plague. They hate it. So nobody's holding each other accountable, and sometimes some subpar stuff gets out, and sometimes there's frustration, but nobody knows how to talk about it because of their personality.
They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and
exactly,
I can see that.
Sure. And not that you have to come in and be this big bad monster. There's, there is the middle ground. It's not one way or the other. And so just teaching people how to hold each other accountable in a healthy way, and how to hold each other accountable in a way that's going to really celebrate who they are, celebrate what they've done, and showing them how that accountability actually is making the other person better. When somebody has a different shift and a mindset shift on what their actions are doing, then it helps them feel better about how they're working in their team as well. But yeah, those are the two common things: breakdown in communication and not holding each other accountable.
So what I see often too is the smaller the small business, the less number of people involved, the more intimate the relationships. And it might even be friends, family. And, it goes beyond just employers sort of things a lot of times. And that is where accountability gets tough, because you're friends,
or your husband.
Yeah.
Or your wife.
Yes.
and you've been working together for 5 years, you're close friends, and all of a sudden you come in and you're saying you got to be holding each other accountable. So you say that you hold them accountable without being mean. What are some of the strategies and things that you do to implement that when they do have personal relationships like that? Because that is a struggle that I see people having.
Yeah, I had a client who we went through this exact thing. She was the manager and her associate was one of her closest friends. And yet the associate was not doing the level of work that the manager needed to do. And she was frustrated. And yet what she didn't realize, and this is what people need to realize, is that her associate was really looking for direction and was really looking for that more help. And so we started conversation. I asked them some questions. I wanted to get to know the manager as to what was it that made her so resistant to giving direction. And then also talked to the associate and said, how would you respond? This is your friend. How do you, is there an issue because she is your friend? Do you feel like she's, being bossy, even though, you guys are friends and have known each other outside of the company? And so they talked about it. And so helping them understand and have realistic expectations of the working relationship, and not to say, right, like, from the movie You've Got Mail, and even The Godfather, right? It's, it's not personal, it's business. Well, we're all human beings. If you tell me something, I am going to take it personally. You can't just say, oh, that's just business. But when you learn how to talk to each other and have an understanding of, so look, I get that we're husband and wife, or I get that, I'm your daughter and you're my dad, but there's still a difference in what the relationships are. And so defining expectations of communication. My husband and I, we worked together for a long time, and most of the time that went really well, sometimes not so great, but we had rules, because when you work together and, you wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and he's starting to talk to you about work, I'm like, nope. And vice versa. It's 10 o'clock at night and I've got all these ideas spinning in my head and I'm like talking to him. He's like, nope. So boundaries and communication, setting up what those expectations are of how the relationship is going to continue, and valuing the relationship. Like, you're my friend long before you are my coworker, and I value that relationship. I don't want to lose that relationship. So it's also just talking about commitment to that relationship and to each other over being right and being, boss and subordinate kind of thing.
So when you come in and work with a company, how long is it? Like, you just come in and you do some training and then they're on their own, or is it an ongoing relationship with you, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I am typically in with a company 6 to 9 months. I don't want to be that person where I'm in their business forever and ever, amen, because I want to teach them what I know. For one, then they can keep duplicating it anytime they bring on new staff, or if somebody goes to another company. I want to make somebody's life better, and making them dependent on me to be doing those things is not making their life better.
Right. So for a company to hire you and bring you in, for example, if someone's listening to this right now and they're thinking, what, she sounds like a good fit for our company, what's the expectation? How much time are you spending with them? How often? What's the frequency? Those sort of things.
Yeah, so in the beginning, we're spending some pretty significant time. I'm going to send out a brief and want to get to know a little bit more about what's going on in the company. I'm going to send out a SWOT analysis to the team. I'm going to send out the personality profile. So there's with that audit work, but most of that is done through email, so it's not super time intensive. We're going to schedule a workshop. Pre-COVID, I would do those live. Right now, depending on where you live, I'm probably going to have to do it via Zoom. And so a lot of it is I'm going to touch base with you once a week, but it's not super time intensive. Like I said, most of the work is done through email and through some phone conversations. The coaching calls, those are going to be about an hour every other week for about 12 weeks in the middle. And then towards the end, we're going to spend some time putting together those strategies and me teaching you how to keep moving forward with the strategies that we've been putting in place and working on and implementing, and then how to keep moving those forward.
So you said you want to work with the smaller businesses that are under 50 employees, but you haven't really niched into an industry, but do you find that most of the ones you work with are more service oriented, or are they more, is it like attorneys and dentists, or is it, who have you worked with the most?
Yeah, I've worked with a very wide variety. I've worked with a dentist's office. I've worked with an insurance company, digital marketing. I've worked with a meat processing company. So it's super diverse, but yeah, it's absolutely service oriented.
That is the fun part about being a coach is, as a coach and an entrepreneur, I've got my own companies, but then the clients I work with, I mean, their businesses are all over the board, and it's fun learning about what they do in those different industries. So for yourself, I mean, obviously stuff like this is an opportunity for you to be in front of people that might be potential clients, but how do you get your clients?
I'm really about relationships. And so I've developed relationships on LinkedIn, and that's how I've gotten clients. But more than anything, the clients that I have provided service for, I want them to think about, how have I helped you? And who do you know that I could be a resource for? And those recommendations. Those are my favorite.
Right. Yeah, good referrals are always
it's always good.
Yeah.
Always the best.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So
I read this. Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I read this book called The Referral of a Lifetime. So when I started my agency, I thought, oh my gosh, my phone is going to ring off the hook because people are going to find out that I'm available and that I'm not stuck with just one company. And that didn't happen. I was like, what? So my first year was really about figuring out marketing because I had no idea what I was doing marketing wise. Again, I was really good and at what I do, but I had no idea how to let people know that. And so I invested in a couple of coaches who helped me learn quite a lot. And then I read this book called The Referral of a Lifetime by Templeton, and it transformed everything for me. It showed me a system that allowed me to be me and be very much focused on other people and how I can make their life better, trusting the fact that as I am me and as I am giving away what I love to give, that there's going to be people who say, I want to work with you, or they're going to say, I know somebody who needs to work with you.
Did you say that was The Referral of a Lifetime?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you beat Jeff too, and he always likes to ask what your favorite book is.
That is actually one of the questions I do ask
influential book.
So that's great. All right. No, I was looking.
Great book.
And it's 4.7 out of 5 stars on Amazon. So it's a big push for that one. So it's going to be in my library.
So it is
soon.
an older book. I mean, it probably was written right as the internet was coming out. So I've made some adjustments based on the fact that, we have email and Zoom and that kind of, and those kinds of things now. So I've made some adjustments, but the principles still remain the same.
No, excellent. No, that's interesting.
Do you do any, email marketing? Because I know you do the LinkedIn, but then do you have like a follow-up email campaign? And excuse me.
I do. I do. I have an email audience as well. I'm not as consistent with that. Some of it has been just finding the new rhythm after having moved, and then because Link isn't full-time, I do actually have a full-time job. I work for a hospice company. And so just finding that rhythm, it's getting there.
So what do you do for the hospice company? Their communications?
I'm their bereavement coordinator and their volunteer coordinator.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's good
so
work.
I line up volunteers who are providing respite care for families and for patients. Right now, because of COVID, they're doing a lot of, we call them tuck-in calls, just calling up, how are things going, sending cards, letting them know that they're being thought of.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Okay, my next question I want to talk about, and Heidi can have some input on this as well. So just so you're aware, Heidi's background, if she were to stand up, you'd realize how tall she is. She's a basketball player. And so she played Division I basketball and stuff. And so one of the things, and I'm a basketball coach, and one of the things I noticed as a business coach and as a basketball coach, and I was a professional rodeo cowboy, and just all the different areas I've been in, looking at that, how much of the struggle people face has to do with mindset. And so I actually have spent the last probably 6 months developing a course that I just launched that was focused on mindset. So tell me, give me your experience. And that's why when I saw that your education was in psychology, I love talking to people with that background, because I love hearing how you view this and looking at when you go into a business, what is the mindset part that you need to work on, and how do you go about that?
So often when I'm dealing with businesses, there is a high level of a fixed mindset, that they're thinking, this is the way we've always done it. How could we possibly do it any differently? And yet when I'm able to spend time with them, and so I want them to know me, and I want them to trust me. And that's going to happen in our conversations, which has happened obviously before. Otherwise, they won't be bringing me in. But as they start to learn what I'm teaching, I'm always teaching the idea of how they can implement this to make things get better. So anybody who follows me on LinkedIn, they know that my hashtag is the next now. And it's about the fact that you are not stuck in status quo. This is not as good as it gets. And it doesn't take these, so often people get really stuck in the fact of thinking that they have to take these giant leaps in order to get to what they want to dream about and what they want to accomplish, and to be that person that they hope to be. And that's just not the case. It's really a bunch of little steps. And so working on shifting that mindset, that comes through educating them. So talking to them about the fact that, as they learn about communication, as they learn about personality, okay, so how can you implement that in your everyday life? How can you start, talking about that? How can you start thinking about people's personality? How can you communicate differently? Showing them those little steps. And then all of a sudden they look back and they're like, oh my gosh, I did it. Look at how far along I've come. I talk about a company that I worked with, and the manager, she called me up, and she was a friend of mine. And so she kind of knew what I did. And she was like, you've got to come in. My team is the worst. They don't listen to me. They don't pay attention. She just went on about how awful they were. And I'm like, well, of course I would love to come in and, find out what's going on. And let's, she's my friend. I want to help her have a great experience at work. And so I came in, and as we were doing the workshop, the personality workshop, it became very apparent that her personality versus most of the other staff's personality was really at the core of their conflict. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to have to tell her this at some point. I'm going to have to say, I think you're the problem. And so we were talking. I was like, oh, I didn't want to do it. And so I was continuing on with the workshop and doing the training. And all of a sudden, it was super exciting because she looked at me and she goes, oh my gosh, I'm the problem.
She realized it on her own. That's awesome.
She did. Yeah.
That's some good coaching.
I think as coaches, oh man, I was like, phew, thank Jesus. But that's what we do as coaches. When we constantly come in with a growth mindset, when we're talking about things with this perspective of what can be, as opposed to helping people stay stuck in that fixed mindset, then we keep opening them up to the opportunities and the ideas of what can be, and we lead them along. Basketball. So it's fun that we're all talking because, like, I'm a basketball fanatic. My husband and I, we joke it's like a second religion in our house. We love basketball.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like you have good players on the team, but if they can't play together, and as a coach, if you can bring out the best in them and then let them take it from there, and then they let them see their own potential, I think is a big part of it.
You teach them the fundamentals and you get them started on the fundamentals, and then you just keep enforcing that and believing in them that
practice.
They can't. Exactly. Yes.
Tell them to practice those things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
It's actually interesting from a coaching perspective. All sports, I guess, are so applicable to everything you try to teach. And even in my latest course, actually, probably in all my courses, I refer to basketball so much. And so if I have people going through my courses that don't like sports, I mean, my courses are useless to them.
No, there he goes again.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, then an important
talking about basketball.
Hey, that's an important topic.
Yes.
Who do you love?
Ooh. So much to my father's chagrin, I tend to be a fan of where I live. So when we lived in Arizona, I loved the Phoenix Suns. And, that's when they just got the new coach. So it was super fun to watch. But now that I'm in Portland, I got to be a Trailblazers fan.
That's acceptable.
I'm the same way when it comes to sports for the most part. It's wherever I'm living. We're in Arizona. So I'm more of a hockey fan, even though I was a basketball player, though. And I'm married to a Canadian, and my co-host is Canadian.
Yeah, very cool, awesome.
Well, that's awesome. Well, this is excellent. I loved hearing more about what you do and how you do it. But let our listeners know if they want to get more information or just follow you, how they find you.
Yeah. The easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn, and it's Jill Valdez. And then you can also go to linkconsulting.info, and that is the website. I'm currently in the middle of redoing a couple of things, but it's still up and very functional. Like, somebody can go there and still get a good idea of what I do, and then also be able to contact me from there.
And on LinkedIn, just because, believe it or not, there are a lot of Jill Valdez's. It's Jill Valdez,
really?
MS, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I typed in your name and you popped right up at the top. So, but
yay,
that's the good news.
Yeah, that's good. That is good. Yes.
But excellent. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing more about what you do, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity. It was great to talk about this. I love talking with other people who are excited about it.
Great. All right.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Jill. Bye.
Bye.